Hello and welcome everyone to LCS Academy. My name is Julian Pastrytime and I am joined for the first time ever, but certainly, hopefully not the last, by Sam, Cage in the Rage, Ragey mate. How's it going? I am so pumped to be back on Academy.
Dude, I am excited to be casting with you. Living legend himself, Pastry Time, and we got some League of Legends today, which, honestly, it's the last week of the regular season. How could you not be excited about some League of Legends today?
Yeah, going to be fun, of course. As a reminder, top 6 teams do qualify straight through to the Proving Grounds. There'll still be chances for the other 4 teams in Academy, but obviously you want to be finishing as strong as you can when the regular season ends, especially since it is such a short season. So a lot to play for here, certainly for a lot of these teams who should be seeing what the Academy has been up to. And to be honest, from the things I've seen, the things I've looked at when I have investigated kind of Academy, they seem to be pretty cutting edge as far as the meta goes. In fact, I would maybe say that coming from the LCS, I think Academy is a little bit more switched on to more of the current meta things.
I think there are a lot of junglers out there, and I focus especially on the jungle because, man, do we have some talent in the Academy rosters. But they seem to be really, really attuned to, like, this meta in particular. I don't know if that's adaptation or if that's just what they naturally do, but when aggressive junglers are in meta, I'm always excited, and I think all of these junglers, specifically those at the top, have really shown what they can do when they have those big picks like Udyr or Olaf or Nidalee, just able to get into the jungle, able to really make a difference in the game by themselves.
Yeah, we'll certainly see that. And FlyQuest vs Immortals is going to be our first matchup, so we'll take a look at some of the highlights from these teams. Actually, take a look at the schedule. I take it all back. FlyQuest vs Immortals, our first game, like I said. TSM Dignitas Academy up second. GG versus 100 Thieves. The big one there in number 4 is Cloud9 take on Team Liquid Academy. And then last but not least, it is CLG and Evil Geniuses Academy to round out the day. Now, as a reminder, if there are tiebreaker games, they will be played today, and they'll be played after the 5 games of the regular season. We might be here, but if there are tiebreakers, someone will be there to bring you through. So don't miss any League of Legends if there are going to be tiebreakers. And of course, we'll keep you informed as the scenarios evolve and change throughout the day, whether or not we will be getting any bonus games. And again, top 6 qualifying through to Proving Grounds, Cage. It does feel like, even though the format is very different, I would say that based on the sheer number of teams that's going to be in what is now effectively Academy playoffs, it's actually probably quite a lot harder to win Proving Grounds than it would have been to win a regular Academy playoffs.
Oh, sure, because we can talk about the Academy rosters all we want. There's a lot of talent that comes from there, but now you have to think about the amateur scene. You have to think about those big rosters in No Ward, you got Solafide, you got Revival, you've got Barrage. I think all of the top amateur organizations could easily compete with a lot of these Academy teams, and they better be careful come Proving Grounds time and come those circuit playoffs, because honestly, it's going to be a bloodbath if you're not prepared to fight these teams.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and like you said, there is just a lot of talent in general across the amateur and academy leagues. You did also mention that we've seen a lot of strong junglers, and we are going to be seeing NXI up to bat here for FlyQuest Academy as we kind of talk about the 2 teams in our first matchup here. And this is a player that I know everyone, including yourself, have looked at and been like, yeah, this kid's pretty good.
I think last week especially just solidified him as this incredible player. Here he is against Schernfire in the Cloud9 game. You see him with 0 kills. That doesn't last very long. He goes up to 6-0 to start the game off, and you can just see how well he's able to kite. Yes, Darshan had a bit of a rough early game, but throughout you can see there's the 6-0. All the kills on his team completely in his control, and every time you see a play FlyQuest makes, it's because of him. He enables everything that happens, and his Udyr is just disgusting.
I mean, this is definitely a meta for this kind of player. For those of you who aren't as aware about NXI, he was kind of one of, I think now many junglers that have come through the 100 Thieves Next hyperbolic time chamber. Both he and Kenvi are very good upcoming NA talents, but NXI was new to Honda Scouting Grounds last year in 2020, was the MVP of that event, kind of took away the overall award, and then got drafted and then eventually picked up on an academy side, even actually had some LCS games while FlyQuest are waiting for the jungler to clear his visa and actually get into the league. So has looked really good for a very new player to even this level of play, and seems to have a bright future ahead of him. But like I said, the amount of like emerging talent's like kind of ridiculous, and the fact that FlyQuest went from a kind of middling academy team last split to now competing for top 4, potentially top 3 or better right now is pretty impressive, especially given that they brought in such a young new jungler that just seems to be overtaking the league.
There's just so much you can do with a roster like this. You have the experience at Kumo, you have Triple especially, who's been representing the Aussie side, and it's just going to be an incredible match to watch, but we can't slouch on Immortals. they are not out of this game by any stretch of imagination. They still have options to win, and I think that's going to be through the bot lane, if I'm not mistaken. Keith, looking a little shaky at times, can still very much carry. Last week, his MF game, incredible, and I think that's something that we have to look at.
Yeah, Keith and Joey definitely players that I think a lot of long-time watchers of the LCS and Academy will be aware of. Joey, formerly of Team Liquid fame, I guess on the MSI stage most infamously, but has been kind of around the block a few times in North America and now landing alongside Keith. He was one of the mainstays of Academy. In fact, for a while, it felt like Keith was the gatekeeper of this level of play, like just so good and on winning Academy teams, most notably Cloud9 Academy for a number of years. So I can see how this would be a lane that you could carry on any day of the week, and they certainly have had upset wins as recently as last week. But I think consistency has been the big thing for IMTA Academy, and if they want to kind of shuffle around and get maybe a better playoff spot for themselves, they are going to have to bring that consistency today.
And that's just the thing about how close these standings are. Immortals have to win this game in order to avoid 7th place. Yes, they can get higher than that by losing, but it's no longer in their hands. They want to keep things as close to the vest as they possibly can, and winning is definitely the way to go here. If they manage to get it, they could get as high as 3rd, if my math is right.
I'm going to trust your math because no one should trust mine at all. But they did have an upset. I guess upsets maybe be a stretch here against TSM, despite having a strong roster on paper. Haven't maybe had the best season so far, but IMT again, like bringing Keith and Joey in as kind of the veterans of this scene. Another Oceanic import in Topoon, who was on Legacy, of course, the Oceanic reps for at Worlds in 2020 last year, and Potluck is kind of like the mainstay of this team actually at this point. He's kind of the franchise player in a lot of ways, and he's had some really good showings on LCS and also in Academy. So I think rounding out with Pretty is kind of an EU Masters player who I don't know as much about, but certainly has been making waves there and now here in NA. Kind of a fun team to watch, even though FlyQuest certainly come in as the favorites. IMT feels like they're the kind of team that has enough talent to steal a game just against just about anyone.
And that's just kind of the format that we have going into this season, is every single game matters. So anytime you have a slip up, anytime you lose a lead that you're supposed to be keeping, that's where the standings completely turn on their head. And especially with this Immortals roster, I feel like there's a possibility that this just goes into a complete mess when it comes to the standings. Everything could go tipsy-turvy, 4-way ties, 2 3-way ties, anything can happen. But if FlyQuest wins, they're going to be standing pretty high at the standings.
Yeah, they'll be happy, comfy in their top 3, top 4 spot at least. I have to say, though, if I'm looking at a feature matchup here, I know we didn't personally talk about it, but I think we already kind of hit it. It has to be jungle here, I think. NXI is kind of the upcoming new player that's been just kind of vaulting FlyQuest up the standings alongside an otherwise very talented roster. And Potluck's a bit more stable, has shown good games across a multitude of leagues, and is, yeah, like I said, kind of the veteran here. So I'm curious to see if Potluck can contain NXI. For me, Potluck's best games are when he's keeping track of the enemy jungler, he's just got control of everything, and he's letting the game kind of play at his pace, whereas NXI is the opposite, right? He's from 100 Thieves Next, which is just like, apparently they only breed explosive, like mechanically talented players. That's all this organization can produce.
No, they are just explosive. And as you said, Potluck, the stable player of the roster, is going to have to really bring his team in. And we talked about bot lane a lot for Immortals. I think that's where the power is going to come from. But NXI, he knows he can rely on Triple and Kumo. So staying towards the top side, probably in his best interest for this game. Topoon on Immortals side, usually the weak side player. So they're used to this play style. FlyQuest have looked at this and they're going to say, we know that that's what you're going to stick to, is that bot side. So let's play at the top. Let's play aggressive with this NXI. And let's use that Udyr.
All right, well, game should be coming up in just a few moments. Of course, when the draft starts, we'll get you right into game. See how these teams are going to be matching up in our first one here. Botlane's interesting on the other side to me, though. Again, if you've been around for a while, you should recognize Tomo, who was a surprise addition to Cloud9 Academy last year, especially in summer when King was unable to play. And he actually had a very good showing on Cloud9 Academy then. Of course, they won back-to-back, so he did really well for a collegiate player that, I guess, took his opportunity at an Academy team. But Dream's also another import here, so it's kind of an interesting, like, bot lane. Haven't really played that much together, but I think could potentially make things happen here. But Keith and Joey certainly, I would expect to be favored in the 2v2, especially if NXI's attention is towards the top side of the map, like it has been this season.
I think at this point, I'm just most curious about how the draft is going to go because FlyQuest does have blue side, excuse me, and they're going to use that for jungle. Now they have several options available to them. Olaf is an underplayed for NXI. You could definitely take the Talia. They could also try to take away power picks from Keith and their bans, and I feel like that's a pretty good idea coming into this game, just because you want to disable any ability for the bot side to take off. You don't want Joey to get something strong, and you want to make sure that you have the best possible matchup towards your solo laners, because that's where FlyQuest power is going to come from, and Immortals really got to ban away anything that NXI could be trying to think about, especially those power picks in the jungle.
Yeah, we are at 11-3, so Pat should be pretty familiar to anyone that's been watching League recently. So no major changes yet. Certainly excited to see what happens when the jungle changes do come on through. It's going to be potentially a very different game, potentially not. But I think in the current jungle meta, this is the kind of thing where players like NXI can really thrive. And again, Potluck just has to kind of do his job, farm it up safely, and contain things. And ideally, get down to the bottom lane to help out Keith and Joey, which hopefully is going to be well covered by FlyQuest. So excited to see here. Again, the expectation is that FlyQuest favored here, but I don't think it's by match. And I think that's probably true for most of the Academy matchups. Everything feels fairly close, with, I guess, the exception we'll get to later when Team Liquid play.
But even that matchup is going to be close once we get to it. Cloud9,
that match is going to be awesome.
Scrappy team, but we got to look at this game because it's going to be exciting. I'm also thinking about this, and I'm thinking about a lot of things when it comes to this matchup because, man, this is exciting. Kumo versus Tapoon. I feel like the delta on this team is greatest in the top side just because, not because Kumo's been like the super dominant player, but because of how consistent he's been. The way he's been able to just take pressure and also able to deliver pressures when he has help from NXI against Tapoon, who never really gets ganks. Potluck will come top sometimes, but usually it doesn't work out, and he just absorbs pressure the entire time. So the playstyle difference, I think, is going to be a really interesting thing to watch out for. And if we're talking about the ways Kumo can do that, Kumo could come out with some very surprising picks. One thing that we saw in the LCS was the Cho'Gath played by Licorice on FlyQuest proper. Now, I'm not saying Kumo's an expert on Cho'Gath, but I am saying he's played it before and might have a couple tricks up his sleeve. I want to see it.
It is actually really interesting to think about this top laners, because if you look at their histories, there actually is quite a lot of like variance in their styles. Like Kumo was kind of an up-and-coming carry talent more than anything else. I think like a lot of like young talented players, they're really good at carries and they're very aggressive and they like to play, you know, for a big lane advantage and snowball the game from there. And it's not always the easiest to translate that style from, you know, amateur and solo queue up into Academy, and then of course up into the LCS, which Kumo does have experience in as well. So it is cool that like Kumo's getting attention, because I think when he was on Cloud9, even when he was in the LCS, Cloud9 kind of did him a favor of like sending Blabber up there to make sure he was having a good time in the lane. And top lane is such a precarious matchup as far as balance goes, with so many different matchup spreads and so many little things that can make a difference. You can really get a big lead if you're able to get some help, whereas when you're isolated weak side, you really just have to be like, I guess I'm down 30 CS. That's just the way I'm playing now. So I like that NXI has been playing to Kumo's lane, but Tapoon was a carry player. That's the wildest thing to me. Like in OC, he was a carry player. He's like, his Camille is excellent. He was known for like just kind of overtaking lanes in Oceania and winning from there. And now he's a weak side player. So maybe there's something different, maybe not, but we are going to get into the draft here, so we'll have a look and see what the teams are brewed up here for this first game here.
Okay, so really taking away that carry that you were talking about for Tapoon. So getting the Camille out. Oh dear, gone. We saw last week's game. Not going to happen. Absolutely not. Renekton as well. So really targeting the top side. This is a very interesting strategy coming in from FlyQuest. Immortals targeting the Senna. Okay, so Tomo, he has played the Senna before. I wouldn't think of it as the scariest pick.
Senna is just one of those champions that if you let her go unchecked, she kind of just overtakes games. And I think especially for topside focused teams, Senna is a very stable pick in a 2v2 bot lane. So I like the ban from IMTA. Like it's one of those things where whenever you play against Senna, you feel like you're on a timer. So I just kind of like not giving FlyQuest the option of taking something pretty safe, pretty stable, and very, very threatening if she's left unchecked. As Rel's going to get banned away from Joey. Makes sense. Joey's a massive playmaker. Also, Seraphine continues to get banned against FlyQuest in both Academy and the LCS. I appreciate that that's consistent, but first pick Azir, that is a triple special.
That is super interesting that they decided to go for the mid lane pick, a blind Azir. Now, it is a blindable pick, and Triple is very proficient at this champion, but you're still giving away so many junglers, and the Kai'Sa, who's going to be instantly locked in for Keith, definitely a power pick coming in for this bot lane, and the Syndra coming out as the favored counter for Pretty.
Yeah, pretty not. Alright, just going to take Syndra here. It is kind of odd that the priority for FlyQuest on blue is on something like Azir. But I wouldn't have had to watch any Academy games in the last like 2 or 3 years, and I would be able to tell you that Triple's a good Azir player because that was his reputation in Oceania. Also, one of the cool things that's happened this year in Academy is lots of different coaches have kind of flown in, especially lots of like former player coaches. But we'll talk about that in a second because NXI is going to be taking Hecarim, and it looks like Xayah there in the bottom side. So kind of keeping things safe, keeping things teamfight oriented. But NXI and a carry jungler, you love to see it. That's kind of what we expected. It's not maybe not the Udi, it's not something super duper power farmy like maybe Graves, but certainly the kind of champion that can take over a game, which is what you want for NXI.
And this definitely adds to the engage, and adding the Xayah to it is also a brilliant move from FlyQuest Academy because now that forces the Rakan ban from Immortals Academy. They have to focus their second ban somewhere else, probably another bot lane ban if we're looking at all the possibilities. This is just looking like a really solid team from FlyQuest. I'm curious what they're going to pair that with. I would assume something like a Leona, Alistar, Nautilus, just that holy trinity of engaged supports. But otherwise, that leaves Kumo free to whatever he wants to play. And although he won't get the counter matchup most likely, he's going to play something that he's pretty confident playing.
Yeah, kind of curious to see this phase of bans in particular, because like you said, there's kind of a lot open in bot lane here. Rakan being the obvious thing, which both Dreams would love to play alongside Tomo's Xayah, and Joey also loves to play even without Xayah. So Thresh being banned is kind of interesting there, but Thresh is actually pretty good right now, and lots of the supports everywhere in the world are very good Thresh players, as Alistar's going to get banned away. Leona's the other one to me that's curious, because like, she's really good against Xayah and Rakan if you want to give it over. Actually, I got to ban Rakan, so we won't get that. But IMTA, of course, have the option of taking one of these supports away here. So depending on what they think FlyQuest is going to go for, they can try and preemptively counterpick the bottom lane here and cut off some of James's options.
And on the other side, Immortals Academy have all the options in the world when it comes to top side. However, they probably should be focusing on something a little tankier for that top. There's the Rakan ban, as expected, but you still have every power top lane. You don't have Renekton and Camille, sure, but you still have all the tank options available to you. You could pick the outside Ornn, you could pick the super outside Malphite if you really wanted to. Bruisers are available, Gangplank, Gnar. I would assume Gnar comes in for Top Moon just because he's so proficient on this champion. I feel like his best games come through on that character, but you're also leaving that as the final pick, more than likely.
Yeah, going to take Leona here. Like I said, it's pretty good into Xayah. You need to be able to lock Xayah down before she can Featherstorm out of there. So I like that pickup for Joey. Again, just blocking some of the things they've set up in Phase 2. GP also a really good ban because he's such a safe blind pick and just so frustrating early on in lanes. So I like how teams have navigated the draft. I'm curious how FlyQuest is going to finish things here. Galio potentially being picked up as support here. Very unlikely to be mid, given that Azir is already picked up. But it is going to be Galio. So like I said, probably Galio support there for Dreams.
Pretty unlikely that it's anything other than support. The jungle pick would be fun. I don't think NXI is really down for it. So Gnar is going to be the hover and the lock-in. Kumo just taking away the power pick. He's also decent at Gnar. Definitely not the #1 champion that Kumo's known for. That Riven, unfortunately, not going to be locked in for the season. But on the other side, Irelia going to be the hover. Very good counter into Gnar. Just able to really get into those aggressive trades early on. But the cannon, ooh, we're getting spicy in this matchup.
Yeah, we'll see. It's been kind of picky between like how much lane power versus team fighting power do I want. It does seem like they are going to settle on cannon here, so not a straight Gnar counter, but I think any champion that can aggressively all-in mini Gnar can be good, especially if your jungler comes to visit. So I like this pickup here. I feel like they kind of like saw Hecarim, Galio, Azir, and were like, we need to team fight, huh? Top Moon, can you play something other than Irelia? And looks like he's going to cannon.
The one thing about Immortals draft is that they don't really have a great engage. They have Joey, of course, and they have the pretty stun as well, but I have to wonder whether or not this one-dimensionality towards forward engage or Top Moon gets a flank, and otherwise you have nothing. You have to worry about FlyQuest Academy coming in with this Gnar, with this Hecarim, and really just diving in onto your squishies, of which you have 2.5 if you count, Graves is that, and even Kennen can be pretty squishy before he gets his Zonias.
Yeah, I think I can't cannon in the squishy pile for sure. I mean, when he has Zonias, but still squishy before and after the fact. So I do agree with you that I think Fly's comp feels a bit easier to play, but we'll see how IMT navigate here in this game. It's going to be a fun one, of course. Really fun draft, actually. Really cool to see the teams kind of navigate back and forth between here, especially with all the support picks, as the game is going to be coming up in just a few moments. Excited to see how it works out, and as of course, we'll be watching the early game junglers to see how they can do. All right, it's time for the game. FlyQuest Academy up against IMTA Academy. 1 of 5 today Mr. Cage in the rage.
Oh, at
Bringing
least.
you all 5. At least, that's true. There could be some bonus games. Stick around after that if you want to see those. We'll, of course, keep you informed on tiebreakers. But for now, FlyQuest trying to secure their top spot. Moving into Proving Grounds is IMT, potentially looking for an upset here. It could tie FlyQuest at 5 and 4 if they pick up the win here.
Very true, and this could very well be the tipping point for all those tiebreakers. This first game coming up. No level 1 shenanigans to be seen thus far. That's pretty much what you'd expect. You want to play as passively as you can in the early game, given how many squishy characters there are on the board. And also, you don't want to lose that early lead, because momentum is so much in this game, and especially since this is the last game of the season, you don't want to start on the wrong foot.
Absolutely not. Want to make sure you're in good form, as it does seem like a red side start here for NXI. It does have Ghost, notably. You can see Ghost. Ghost is pretty common on Hecarim. Seen it on Olaf sometimes as well, but Hecarim generally is happy to use his ulti or his move speed to get away from something if he has to, and Hecarim also doesn't need to run from all that many fights, especially if you're ahead. So I like this here as Topun is going to help out Potluck on the top side of the map as well. So going to be red to blue for both junglers here. They'll end up on opposite sides of the map to kick things off, which does potentially isolate Topun here. We'll see how Mr. Weakside Topun does do in the Kennen versus Now matchup.
Well, Kennen luckily has a pretty good farming lane. He also has a lot of early aggression that he can do in this lane, so hopefully Kumo doesn't get too far ahead. Topun just has to watch out for that early level 3 gank coming out of NXI when he eventually makes it to the top side. Otherwise, I think this is just going to be a farm fest for at least 10 minutes of the game, and likely Topun doesn't go for the all-ins early.
Yeah, I think pretty safe to assume it's going to be a fun fest in general. That has been kind of the jungle meta in a lot of ways. Although we could see some action in bottom lane. We've seen quite a lot of dives, at least in the LCS, and Leona, of course, wanting to play aggressive here at level 2 alongside Keith because they do have control of the wave. Turma and Dreams going to have to just chill out here. Lethal Tempo versus Halo Blades. Pretty easy for Kai'Sa to win in those early trades with the Keystone. It's quite a bit better early on. But IMT going to hit level 2, and then Keith going to go ahead and ward. So just getting a little bit of info here, not wanting NXI to sneak in and potentially wrap around to the bottom lane nice and early, even though it would be unlikely. You don't want silly things like this to happen, as Ghost is going to be popped, Pretty going to be the target, and now going to be moved back in. That looks like first blood to me, and indeed it is. See you later, Sunshine, as Triple grabs first blood.
And that's the aggressive NXI we all know and love. Goes for the under 3-minute gank to the mid side. Seeing that Pretty was pushed up, the flash was down. It was over from the start. Just too much to deal with. Pretty over here, overextended in this lane. The Hecarim comes in. The devastating charge is in fact living up to its name. And Triple, easy follow-up. Boop. There it goes.
I like how we set up, like, oh yeah, they're just going to be farming, both these junglers want to hit 6, and then NXI is like, let me show you something I've been brewing up here. Red buff level 3 ganks mid lane at 3 minutes. Oh, he's doing it again. Top side. So Green could be in trouble here. NXI going at it again. Kuma already taken aggro. Very nicely played by Fly, but now the hop away from Topun could keep him safe. Has burnt the flasher, so they're going to go for the re-aggressive. Kuma walks in for the auto, gets the heal, and he's safe. Gets himself the second kill as NXI finds 2 successful ganks.
The triumph, just enough to keep Kumo alive, but you can see this is the NXI that is just coming out to play today. Potluck, unfortunately, not able to find any advantages off of the kills that are coming out. NXI is just everywhere on the map, and he is playing exactly to the strengths that this team is known for. FlyQuest Academy start the game off beautifully in form.
It's like so subversive to do this as Hecarim as well. Like the first one, you're like, okay, like I guess I should have maybe expected that. Pretty just playing a little bit too far up and gets punished. But the second one is like, there's no way this Hecarim's going to gank again, right? Like, it's Hecarim. He has to farm. He's so useless before 6. So really creative angles here for NXI setting up alongside his laners, which, to be fair, don't have that much CC to really help the Hecarim with, but they have enough damage. The angles are good, and NXI already off with 2 assists for both his solo laners. So you said it was the top side team, Cage. I'm starting to agree with you, because the first 5 minutes of play I've seen definitely confirm that.
And now Potluck trying to make the difference on this bot side. He's going to pick up the scuttle. He doesn't want to really put this bot lane into pressure quite yet, but might just take the dragon. It looks like he will be starting. However, FlyQuest have pinged it out. They know exactly what's going on, and Hecarim is in the area, so this may very well turn into the 3v3.
Yeah, I like this from Potluck, just trying to accelerate the game here and be like, well, you spent all this time ganking the top half of the map. I'm going to make sure that with my push in bottom lane, even though the farm is even, they've got control, so we can take this away nice and easily. So there is going to be uncontested Drake there. FlyQuest, I think, happy to concede that, given how successful Their early game has been they're already up 1,000 gold, but that is a really nice response from Potluck, just recognizing the map state and saying, you know what, we can at least get this bot lane, come up and help me, and we'll make sure we don't fall too far behind, at least on overall objectives, even if the gold is still there for FlyQuest.
And Pretty also just decided to join in on the party. I love the communication coming in from Immortals. They're saying, pressure the lanes. We got to get this dragon. We have to get an advantage somewhere. And so you saw bot lane rotating as soon as they pushed up the lane. You also saw Pretty coming in as the late carry. Potluck also getting a couple CS to keep his experience not too far off NXI, who unfortunately has just been farming up quite a storm. He's gotten his back off and now has the Sheen. So he's going to be looking pretty strong coming into the sub 10-minute mark.
I mean, just think of it, like, that is such an unreal amount of efficiency from a jungler to gank 2 times in a minute and still be even on CS against like Graves. Like, that's ridiculous.
It's nuts.
As the early Sheen from NXI going to help in both the farming of champions and of monsters. As Kumo level 6 already, threatening top boom, but farm's nice and even so far. Bottom lane's really been where Keith and Joey have had some pressure, but it does seem like Dreams and Tomo have leveled out the lane. There is a pretty big wave to farm here for Keith and Joey, though, so should be playing catch-up here about, what, 8-9 creeps in that wave as Potluck is here.
And this might just turn into a gank. Nice root, though, goes down onto Keith, and at half health, here's the fight.
Yeah, Dreams knows already procs Aftershock, though, and I think he's going to be okay. Has to flash out, but Potluck's going to flash in, and they really want this kill. Level 6 is not enough to secure it, but Pretty's here as well as Tobo. He's been fighting back, but it's on the wrong front. Dreams is going to go down as Pretty finds the wraparound kill on the Syndra. Very nice roam from the IMT mid laner.
Didn't even have to use the Unleashed power, so he still has it available. Tomo has to be so careful playing this out. He has the Summoner spells, but not the Feather Storm, so has to be very, very cautious against Joey, who is taken aback. Keith also going to be pushing up, but a very nice proactive play coming in from Immortals, recognizing how the wave was pushing.
Yep, nice stuff there, so watch it again. I mean, you can see why they wanted to go for it. Dreams was like, I'm fine, I'm Galio with Aftershock. Probably not going to die to this Leona.
No, and you can see in this fight, Pretty already had the call. They knew they were making that play. Dreams is too low to deal with any pressure coming in for Pretty. The stun lands and just too much damage out of this Syndra early on in the game. Immortals are getting a little bit of tempo back, but it still feels like NXI, whenever he shows up on the map, is going to be able to do some real damage to the side of Immortals eventually. However, in the last couple minutes, he's been a lot more passive, trying to farm up, trying to keep in that CS lead against Potluck, but I don't think that's the play at this point in the game.
We've got level 6 as well, so can certainly look to answer some more of these plays around the map. I also kind of get why Pretty wanted to leave his lane. Triple has Verdant Barrier already, which if you've been following the cutting edge of Twitter analysis, actually, that sounded so like facetious, which it's not. It's actually a very, very good item. Yeah, in control mage matchups especially, this item kind of invalidates like a lot of the early laning power that even something like Syndra could have. So I like that Pretty's like, fine, you want to farm the wave and 1v1 me? I'm leaving. And gets out of there. Now going to actually move up and help Potluck here. Joey also roamed up for this early Rift Herald. And Kumo is going to keep Topoon out of the picture, but I don't know if NXI and friends can make it here in time to try and contest for this objective.
Kumo has something of a bad timing here because he just went Mega, the Narbar is completely dry, and he is exhausted, so won't be able to really make an impact on this fight. FlyQuest, knowing this, decided to back off, and I think that is the right call at this point. Yes, the health bars might be a little low for Immortals, but if you try to go into that fight without Kumo's ult and without a really good position and vision advantage, you're going to be running into a Leona, a Graves, a Syndra. So many things that just turn team fights with a single ability if they manage to get it to land.
So with that early Dragon and now that Rift Herald, depending on how much Immortals get out of this Herald play, if they get a tower, especially if they grab the plates off of it, they're pretty much going to equalize the gold here. And unfortunately for NXI, invalidate all his hard work ganking those lanes early on. So curious to see where Potluck does want to drop that. Doesn't really have an obviously pushing lane because all of FlyQuest lanes have just done a good job of staying in the lane and pushing things out. You can see Triple, it's already pushed in Pretty. Kumo's trying to stay aggressive wherever he can, make sure he can monitor top boon and not let him get out. And it's going to be back and forth in bot lane, but Tomo and Dreams at this point in the lane seems to be pretty comfortable fighting back, even though early on with Halo Blades both lethal tempo, it didn't feel nearly as good. For Fly, I feel like they're playing a little bit more for the lanes here. IMT doing a good job playing the map despite the good ganks from NXI. And all things considered, we'll call it even next Drake in 25 seconds, though, and Potluck is on the wrong side of the map. If that's Immortals' next move.
And the break time or the back timings coming in for FlyQuest Academy were very good there. You saw that about 40 seconds away from the Dragon, that's when you see the backline backing, that's when you see NXI backing. They are ready for this fight. And Keith just completed his back. The Dragon is live in about 5 seconds. He's not going to be there. Tapoon almost has the teleport back. This timing's a little bit scary for Immortals. And I feel like this is where FlyQuest Academy can really come in. They can get this Dragon, and they can get this objective for free and maintain a 1,000 gold lead if they don't also get a couple kills along the way.
Yeah, they're going to be first to the objective, so they clear out the vision, which is always good to see. Very tough for IMT to walk through, you know, potential pumped up Nara in the brush, a Galio taunt, a Hecarim multi. Triple also going to get mid lane pushed in there up against the Syndra, so Joey going to have to try and find the angle. Kai'Sa W does hit the Dragon, so they see it briefly, but Dreams is just playing goalie here. Rift Tower going to get summoned. FlyQuest trying to finish off this objective. Joey already taking a little too much damage just from the Gnar, so that is going to be FlyQuest grabbing the Drake, but IMT going to try and counter here in mid lane. They will get plate money here, but I don't think they'll be able to get the tower, so not the trade Immortals wanted, and that stops the Drake snowball that potentially Immortals could have looked to here in this game.
And with that, the mid lane gets pushed. A couple plates go over to Immortals Academy, but you have to feel like FlyQuest Academy with the proactive play. Pretty, though, with the stun. Not going to follow up on that. There's no potluck. But you have to feel like FlyQuest Academy do get the better of that trade. They do keep the tempo in their favor. The gold still in their favor, even though it's only about 500. It's a difference that doesn't make a whole lot right now, but could snowball out of control with a couple plays from NXI, who I just feel like has played this later stage of the early game too passively, considering how big of a lead he got.
Yeah, I'm curious to see kind of what he does in the mid game, I guess, because that's where I would expect Hecarim to be doing a lot of his work. But NXI definitely has kind of traded his early gank timing for more gold, and this is trying to accelerate to his Spellblade item that much faster, I suppose. So we'll see. Certainly a lot of time still for him to make plays, but I think I can agree that he could have been a bit more aggressive, especially once he hit 6. For now, though, I think FlyQuest are happy with the lead they've gotten. Their laners are feeling very comfortable. They're ahead, at least by a small amount in every single lane, so we'll call it even or ahead for all of them, which is nice. And they stopped the potential Drake snowball that IMT could have had. Maintaining control of the map. They probably want to fight for this next Herald whenever it comes up, but they didn't lose the tower. There was a couple plates off the first Herald that got dropped. So I imagine we're going to go back into a bit of a quieter section here, at least until the next Dragon spawns.
It does definitely look that way, and the real question is, what do you do in order to make it less quiet, and who can get the advantage here? Because both sides do have options available to them. I feel like a Joey roam right now would not be uncalled for. I also feel like on the side of FlyQuest Academy, you have these engage options and follow-up options, especially noting that Dreams is now 6 and has the hero's entrance. There's just so much you can do on this team, but unfortunately the vision just isn't supporting them. Immortals Academy have done a really good job of controlling the river thus far.
Yeah, actually very impressed with FlyQuest vision control setting up that last Dragon. Just seems so methodical. Just moving through as a unit, having their back timings really well drilled. Whereas IMT felt a little bit off setting up for that play. Even though Pollock did such a good job of setting up the first one, as James is just walking into the enemy jungle, trying to get what vision he can. That control ward and that little bit of special... Actually, that brush is always there. It's not an ocean brush. I take it all back. Joey looking aggressive. Here's Potluck. Damage down onto Tomo, but they're going to look to turn it around. Featherstorm is out to keep Tomo alive. See you later. Potluck is Joey going to fall here as well. Triple with a great TP. Over the wall goes Hecarim as NXI takes out Joey with the onslaught of shadows. And that play just not ready for IMT as FlyQuest get 2 clean ones.
That's just what can happen when you have so many engage options on a team. The Solar Flare came out, it whiffed, and suddenly Immortals Academy found themselves without any recourse, any way back into that fight. Pretty just couldn't land the stun. There was no way to get onto Tomo, and the damage just keeps rolling out. There's nothing Potluck can do once he's trapped in a fight. You can say, yeah, he has a dash, he has flash, but they've got a Hecarim on the other side. NXI is just proving what he can do with this champion, and even though it's been a little passive for the last couple minutes, once he gets into a fight, he is scary and will be a spooky horse as the game continues.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tomo very self-sufficient here on Zai. It's Cleanse Zai that had ulti up and didn't even need to use either summoner. Tomo feeling pretty safe in that spot, and I think kind of a result of just the vision that IMT didn't have as Tapoon solo killed Kumo.
Not quite the solo kill. It looks like Potluck was there. Tapoon almost went down. Kumo, he tried his best in the 1v2. Didn't quite see what happened there, but it does give Immortals Academy a bit of momentum. That's their second kill of the game. They keep the gold relatively consistent, and they give a little to Tapoon, who, again, very low econ, top player, usually playing weak side, does get a little bit of an advantage. Hopefully that means he rotates to the bot side, tries to make some team plays as the game goes on. But as it stands right now, the main rotations are out, and FlyQuest Academy seem to be the ones initiating.
Yep, I'm going to be swapping to the top side, looking to maybe pick up the Herald. We'll see if we can have a look at what happened in top side, but I saw Potluck, Scale Force, and ulti on cooldown after we saw that, so I'm going to take a guess that they were involved. Oh, goodness, how did this happen?
What? Very low health bars, apparently. Tapoon, he has the full mana. Kumo is out of Narbar. Looks like it was just some back and forth poke, and Tapoon with the Shuriken. You can see he watches his Naruto and was able to get a lot of damage down, finishing off that kill.
What a snipe from Tapoon. That was blind too, I believe. I mean, pretty easy to read the hop, but very well played by Tapoon to make sure that kill happened. Love to see it. There's Potluck. Didn't even need to Gale Force. I lied about that. Just had the ulti there over the wall, and that was enough to take out poor Kumo. How they got to that situation, we may never know. But clearly they're willing to fight each other there in top lane as FlyQuest go ahead and pick up that Herald. Already been summoned here in mid lane because FlyQuest want to open up the map.
And with this Rift Herald drop, that's going to be a mid turret that is almost certainly going down. Triple, just a couple more autos, has the passive as well. The legacy of Shurima going to be keeping them safe for the moment as 5 members of Immortals Academy find themselves out of sorts. They tried to rotate and make an aggressive play as the dragon spawns in. Unfortunately, they don't have the vision control right now. They weren't able to set up anything. And so FlyQuest Academy, even though they don't have the positioning right now, they have the vision. And they have so many members of Immortals stacked up against Kumo, who's almost ready to go rage mode.
All right, almost 10 ults on the table. Just Joey's cooling off. As IMT, they've started this dragon, but FlyQuest definitely willing to fight for it here. Got to watch the flanks as well. Nar and Galio around the top side there for Fly. Extra wall here as well in front of the pit for Kumo to potentially work with his ulti, but IMT keeping aggro on this Drake of FlyQuest just slowly but surely driving them out. But now IMT going to move in, try and finish it off faster, but I imagine FlyQuest are going to try and force something here. Maybe just a 50-50, maybe a team fight afterwards. Joey finds the stun to NX at the pick his gate. He's able to find it. That's Dragon over to IMT. And now Kumo rolling in his top moon, pops the ulti there and takes out Kumo. It's actually Carnage here in front of the pit there as Keith able to grab himself a double kill. But does go down, and now Kumo going to be chased down. Will we finish up there as IMT make it 4 for 2 if my math is correct, as IMT absolutely win that dragon fight.
Oh no, just a little bit of mistiming coming in from Kumo. The Narbar was already active at the time, just before the team fight started. He thought he could get in position there. You could see it runs out, and then Tapoon decides, this is my time. In the Yordle battle, I am supreme. The stuns onto NXI were also key. Coming in from Joey, just good enough combo to keep him locked up and unable to use any of his abilities. And from there, it's just disengage, re-engage. Try to get the targets in while you try to get the targets you're going for out. So Tomo is forced out, unable to get the damage that he needs to onto Tapoon at the end. And Pretty, throughout the whole thing, just kind of stays safe, deals damage, and keeps the blue buff for himself. Pretty good fight all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that, Immortals have evened up the game. They're even on towers, they're even on gold, and they're even up at Drake after winning that fight and claiming the prize at the end of it all. So a very good look there for IMT, who have written off the success that NXI had in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now well and truly equipped and ready to fight. And it is, again, we talked about in the draft, like, is this enough with all of the teamfight power that FlyQuest have at their disposal? And it turns out the answer is yes, when FlyQuest don't have everything available. You know, one cannon is enough alongside some pick tools, it turns out, especially when the skill shots are as accurate as they were. Very well placed there by Joey to kind of kick things off there.
One thing to note is that NXI, he only used Ghost in that fight. He still has the Onslaught of Shadows if he needs it. Pretty used Flash. Keith used Flash and Ultimate. I feel like these two squishies being so vulnerable at this point in the game could mean that NXI makes a play. I feel like the next 3 minutes is going to be very crucial, as the Baron is going to be spawning in. Dragon not going to be until after that, unfortunately. But Immortals Academy, they can position a little stronger right now, but FlyQuest Academy could also just call the bluff right here.
Yeah, there's a ward there, and Dreams has to know it, so he's going to start off the fight. NXI, like you said, has the ulti still at the ready, but Joey burns a solar flare as Tomo roams up, and that is enough to disengage.
And with that, the bot side continues. Kumo's got to dive. Oh.
Used Stride Breaker already, so didn't have an extra gap closed, and unfortunately, Wallop was just shy of stunning that Yordle. But Kumo's going to take this tower. Toppin can't stay in this 1v1.
Uses the Gnar against the minions, definitely.
I like it.
An option. When you have level 11, it's basically the cooldown of using your Narbar once again, so not really any drawbacks to that. Does get the turret and forces Top Moon back, so at the very least, Kumo can keep pressure as long as he times out the Gnar well enough. Top Moon, he really does have to be careful. All he has is the Zhonya's and the Sword Boots. Right now, it's just such a close match that any interference from the rest of the team could tip the scales.
Speaking of, Potluck's actually down there right now, but I believe Kumo is indeed going to get recalled to safely. As we can see on the... Ooh, he actually stays. Okay. Cancels off there to keep the pressure here. NXI triple and Dreams up in the top half. Going to take down the tower. FlyQuest, they heard us. Didn't like that I was saying they evened up the gold. They're actually up almost 2,000 gold after taking all those towers out. But Keith and Joey trying to counter push here in mid. Oh,
I like this.
It's already dead.
It's definitely a really good play coming in from FlyQuest Academy. They know, again, Pretty and Keith don't have the ability to defend turrets right now. With their summoner spells down, they just can't stand against NXI right now. So they use the pressure, they're able to get topside, botside cleanly. And even with the rotations, there's no real comeback from Immortals Academy. They have to play passive, and they have to wait for the next dragon before they can make their next play.
All right, well, that dragon is up in 1 minute and 12 seconds. Not too long here. Again, not the super fast dragon that maybe IMT were hoping for, but they are up in that objective, which is always nice. Banshees is done now for triple, but Void Stuff is done now for Pretty, so it's kind of a fun little piece of interplay. They've both gone for, of course, their damage mythic. Leandry's on either side, but that early verdant barrier obviously prompting eventual Banshees, which is very good in these kind of matchups, and just a solid item all around, especially after, I believe, a reset buff. So Pretty's like, yep, fine, you want to build some MR? I got you. Got himself a Void Stuff already.
It's just going to be really tough for Triple to keep that Banshee's Veil up because there's so much poke that can come out from Immortals Academy, and non-committal poke at that. Something like Pretty, having so many abilities, Top Moon with the Q. It's just going to be tough. Yes, the stats are going to make up for it, but that Spell Shield itself, not the most valuable into this team.
Yeah, it kind of stops from getting like YOLO, Syndra, Eid, or Leona ulted, but that's about it. As Jenkins started up, but Pretty kicks him back. Kumo hops back over to the teammates as triple. But the play does get the knockback there onto Joey, and now Zonya's is off the Syndra ulti. So that's one kill already, but Top Moon, massive flag! What an ulti there, goes into Zonya's as well, picks up the counter kill. And now I think it's IMT to have the fight, but FlyQuest still fighting on Sword of Shadows. He's going to miss though, and that's not enough damage. Pretty going to take him out. Keith going to zoom back in there as well. And IMT surely 2v3, no health bars. Dreams with a big taunt on the other side as Tomo over the wall is trying to finish him off. But Kumo's out of health. Galio goes down, and FlyQuest, try as they might, cannot win that team fight.
Tomo just barely didn't have the feathers to get the secures, but unfortunately for FlyQuest Academy, they had the setup. They did get stunned out by Pretty in the very beginning of that fight, but they also had the great re-engage. They had the pick onto Joey. They had everything that they needed to win that fight. Unfortunately, just a little bit of missed execution there, and a great gank from Top Moon to come from the backside and use the Slicing Maelstrom against 4 members at one instance. So really good play coming out of Immortals Academy to win that fight out, even though they don't necessarily have the gold advantage. Looking at this fight, you can see Azir coming in, Triple uses the great Zhonyas and forces 1 kill immediately. Unfortunately, they forgot about Top Moon. Can't ever forget about Top Moon. He's always going to come in, and even with the damage that FlyQuest Academy can try to put out, if you don't follow up NXI, he's just going to die.
Yeah, bold move, I'll say, for FlyQuest here. Even Dreams through this re-engage is like trying to make something happen, and to his credit, like Kumo and Tomo almost got 2 more kills, but Pretty's very nicely timed stopwatch managed to save himself there. But I at least appreciate FlyQuest like going for it. Unfortunately for them, there was not much to salvage after Top Moon's great flanks, so really well played by IMT to keep themselves even in this game. In fact, you could call them ahead given that they're up in Drakes and now have the Mountain Soul as a very real win condition, as that first Soul Dragon will spawn for them in 4 minutes' time. There's still the Baron to worry about as well, though, and the map is a bit more open for FlyQuest, although 3 to 2 towers is not a particularly massive advantage on the FlyQuest side. It does really feel like teams have been willing to scrap 5v5, and I guess it's who executes better, and so far it's actually been Immortals, surprisingly. Despite having arguably worse team fighting tools, managed to find more creative ways to extend fights and win them for the angles that their team comp actually can take.
They're definitely trying to fight in tri-bushes, try to get those angles that you were just talking about, really using Top Moon. And this was the thing that I was fearing for Immortals Academy, is if you can't get ganks with Top Moon, if you can't get the angles, then the Kennen pick becomes really difficult to use. However, Immortals, they've found a use for it, and they've managed to make it work. With that, they have the momentum on their side. They don't have a gold lead necessarily, but again, as you were saying, the sole point is there. And FlyQuest Academy, they're the ones that have to be the aggressors. Normally they like to be the aggressors, but in a position where you're forced into it, it's definitely less ideal than Immortals Academy are in right now, because they can just decide, we can take this fight, we cannot take other fights. Yes, the Baron is up, but we have Pretty, we have Potluck, and we have Tapoon. That's so much AoE damage that comes in. FlyQuest have to get a pick if they want to start this up.
Yeah, and good to see like Triple starting things off right. I think if you're a ZS sees a moment to go in, you can certainly make that play, but I think we're looking more to Kuma, more to NXI to find positions, find angles, and use their ultimates, which are very, very powerful team fighting tools to kind of get things started. We haven't even really seen like a proper combination for FlyQuest, right? Like Dreams hasn't really Galio ulted anyone going in, haven't really found an ulti for NXI, haven't found an ulti for Kuma that hasn't been isolated, because he's basically trying to keep a flanker out of the fight rather than going in 5v5 with his team. So FlyQuest certainly do have, I don't think have found fights that their team comp wants to find, whether that's credit to Immortals for not giving them those opportunities, or FlyQuest not picking the right spots is up for debate, I suppose, but still very close here. 2 minutes till that next dragon. That will be the first shot at Soul for Immortals. As Triple chilling on the top side, does have TP ready. I think that is one thing that FLYA are leaning on pretty heavily, is that they feel very comfortable in the 1-3-1 setup. I don't think they can 1-3-1 to the Nexus and win, but they certainly can have control of side lanes, which should make it easier to get vision around the objectives and start things off on your terms.
You certainly feel like the 1v1s favor FlyQuest Academy at this point. You can see Triple. We talked about the Banshee's Veil as well as the Leandri's. Just a really good build into Pretty at this point. And Tapoon versus Kumo. It still feels like Kumo can win these out if he uses his Narbar correctly, if he gets the poke first and then the all-in, and forces something out of Tapoon. Because if you get either the Zhonya's, the Teleport, or the Flash, you're feeling pretty confident. Looking at the gold graphs just for a brief moment, the biggest delta that I'm seeing is that mid lane, Triple and Pretty, where Pretty actually has a significant advantage at about 1,000 gold. That could very much make the difference.
Yeah, Pretty actually collecting all those kills in the last team fight not only leaves him with a pretty hefty bounty, but that gold lead that has actually manifested in a full item finish. In fact, he's got an Oblivion Orb on top of that, alongside the Zhonya's that he finished after using his stopwatch in the earlier fight. Although, as I say, that Triple's also got a Zhonya's finish, so it's about an Oblivion Orb up, which is not bad, right? Got an extra tier as well here for Pretty, which has been fully stacked up. I imagine that's going to get transformed at some point, but extra mana never hurts. As FlyQuest, they've had enough. They're going to start Baron.
That is extremely aggressive. At the same time, they're taking it really quickly. It's down to about a third health. FlyQuest Academy, they're trying to go in.
Dreams looks for the taunt, just find it on a Joey. That'll force a flash, but now FlyQuest have to reset the Baron, so time to get out and maybe start a team fight. Kumo is very angry.
Oh!
It hasn't transformed yet. Is that Soul Flare? Did not find the target Joey was looking for.
But I like the aggression coming out of Immortals Academy. They read the play. They knew that it's possible. They're coming in as...
Good attempt. I really like it from Kumo. Used the Stride Breaker, saw the angle on the Keith. Keith holding on to both his summoners there. As IMT, they're basically using Joey's ultimate to force him to go around the long way so they can start this dragon. And FlyQuest are going to trade.
Okay, so they're going immediately for the Baron. This is a pretty good play. This forces Potluck towards the bot side. Unfortunately, FlyQuest Academy don't have the speed yet. Joey almost has about halfway left on his stun and will have Solar Flare available. Dreams is trying to zone, but Tapoon on the backside is going to be a real pain in the butt for FlyQuest Academy.
This is not going to work, unfortunately, for FlyQuest. Basically couldn't get vision in the river around Dragon, didn't want to face check, decided to try and trade, and then get cut off by IMT and kind of finish the Baron. So at the end of it all, IMT, like, you know, trade a couple cooldowns back and forth, but get enough positioning to take the Dragon Soul, and nothing else happens. That's not how that's supposed to go down.
You see some crazy things on week 5 of Academy, but, you know, Immortals Academy, they're playing it slow, they're playing it controlled, and this is something that they've been missing a lot from their earlier games. Usually they get impatient, something will happen, and generally it's Pretty that gets caught out at some point. In this game, he's been incredible. He's been on point with the Syndra, getting the proper stuns, getting the setups, and also picking up the kills and proving himself to be a valuable asset when he's put in the carry seat.
All right, well, FlyQuest still certainly have plenty of play in this game, but that Mountain Soul, very good, the IMT side. Just good all around. Helps your frontliners live for longer, which is good news for a team that doesn't really have a true frontliner. But FlyQuest, again, still committing to these side lanes, still pumping up their carries, Triple especially is very threatening in an unchecked teamfight. Tomo going to be the same with 3 items done, although Keith has been similarly deadly on the Kaiser and has a much easier time getting in once a fight starts. And IMT have been definitely not shy about starting things. Oh, Tomo face checks Joey. Good Feather Storm. Going to get the cooldown there. It's something IMT can keep track of for next time.
And Potluck tries to set up just a little bit forward, but, you know, Joey's already used his engage, doesn't have flash quite yet. Triple going in out of Tapoon, barely misses there. Great dodge out of Tapoon. Doesn't even have to burn the flash, so top lane for the side of Immortals Academy. Feeling pretty confident as the play is going to be a comeback here. Yeah,
TP's coming up top. FlyQuest getting initiated on because IMT already up here. That's going to be 1 kill over as Triple gets caught up by all 5 from IMT, who use their teleports to get very far forward, but that's enough for a 5v4 around this Baron.
And that's the advantage Immortals Academy we're looking for. Kumo, he's out of Narbar, so this is perfect timing from Immortals Academy. They thought that they could get that kill. They were able to get Tapoon out, and then Tapoon goes immediately back in with the teleport. I love that play coming out of them, and with that, they were able to secure not only a kill, but the Baron as well. Dragon Soul, Baron, Immortals Academy are playing this map very, very well. They get the backs off, no losses, and it's looking pretty clean for them at 30 minutes into the game.
Yeah, they're up, 1,500-ish gold, but I think at this point it's a lot less about what the gold values are and more about the state of the game. And certainly with the Dragon Soul and now this Baron as well, IMT are going to feel very set up to approach these inhibitors and start chipping down that Nexus. But let's watch this one again, because Triple just barely misses that kill into Tapoon. Remember that Tomo doesn't have ulti either from the last play, and then Triple's just like, oh, I'm getting flanked by 2 TPs.
You can see Syndra and, Kumo and Pretty just fighting on the bot side. Pretty manages to get the first teleport in, which is incredible considering he was against a Mega Gnar. And for whatever reason, Immortals Academy, they saw the play. They were able to get the nice teleport from Tapoon, and FlyQuest Academy, they were out of position. They just fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Nothing you can do about that, and now they are paying the price for being too passive during certain parts of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing, right, where Triple's the one that feels compelled, as a more veteran player, to make plays on a champion. He's very comfortable doing that on Azir, right? But it is, I think, the other members of the top half of the map for FlyQuest who we want to see trying to initiate more of these moments, right? Kubo or NXI could find something, and they have James as well to back it up, but, I mean, not right now. Right now, they have to just play PvE until the Baron wears off, because not a whole lot of fun as IMT are looking to siege up these towers. They should be able to take this top tier 2 with little problems, although the Baron up cannon's going to have to do quite a lot of work to get that done.
The engage is still possible for FlyQuest Academy. Kumo almost does actually break the Narbar open with that. NXI has everything available to him. However, Immortals Academy are playing just properly enough where FlyQuest Academy can't get in. Tapoon coming in from the top side might look to go for a dive here, but even that might be a step too far for this team.
We'll see. I'd like to see it personally. Tapoon at least going to zone them off. That's such a good play on Tomo, but now Dream's going to turn it back around. Tapoon, though, back in the zone as he goes. Unleashed power used on Dreams, and that's just going to open up space here to make sure Tapoon stays alive. And Tomo almost got one rounded there by the cannon. He'd have to blow both his summoners as well. So I'd say very worthwhile trade for the IMT top laner.
100%. Tomo burns everything that he has defensively in order to get out of that. Now no longer has the stopwatch, doesn't have his ultimate, doesn't have any of his summoner spells. He has to rely on the rest of his team to protect him. And in this part of the game, that is a huge liability, as Elder Dragon spawning in 45 seconds. And you absolutely need your AD carry to be safe. Otherwise, there is no way that FlyQuest Academy can win these fights. They have the engage, they have some damage coming out of Triple, but without the consistency of Tomo's damage, it's going to be a very uphill battle.
Azir can feel like a marksman sometimes, as far as damage output goes, and has finished in Ashes, so perhaps Triple can be the DPS source they need, but I do agree with you, it's going to be very tough for Tomo to get out of these fights alive. You just have enough skill shots to dodge that you're going to spend more time playing dodgeball than actually dealing damage, which is might as well be dead at that point if you're not auto-attacking as an AD. NXI, again, trying to find something here, but IMT, firstly, objective, doing a great job shutting down all the vision, and they don't even have to take this Elder. They can just force FlyQuest to face check them, and that's not something FlyQuest wants to do. They're going to have to use one Scryers up there. They've got one more left, but FlyQuest need to push forward and try and take some territory, because if they can't get in onto this Elder Dragon and get IMT off it, they're not going to win the following team fight, that's for sure.
And they certainly have to watch out for the damage Immortals Academy can put down onto this Elder Dragon. Keith by himself at this point in the game can almost solo it. at this point as Kumo getting caught.
Joey. Oh, good dodge forward though. But now Keith's going to come in there. Going to be tied up here. So Kumo actually wasting two people's time, but is, I think, going to die here. It is a fight indeed on two fronts as Keith gets stunned, but that's maybe a good thing there. As Dream's going to find Topoon. That's the pick they wanted. That ward over the wall could save the game for FlyQuest.
Ooh.
It is Tomo that grabs the shutdown, and Kumo lives and has TP.
All right, FlyQuest Academy showing the strategies. Kumo making it out clutch in that situation. It does have to burn the Sterix, but he is more than okay with that. Teleports back into the fight, and now it's a 5v4 favoring FlyQuest Academy. Pretty trying his best, but he's going to have to do a lot more than that.
Kind of a 5v5 because FlyQuest are fighting the Elder Dragon as well, but they want to take this. They're potluck ready with the smite though, so FlyQuest just going to put the game on a 50-50, and NX is 2 levels down from the graves. How is it possible for you to get this dragon? Oh! Potluck does get it, and now the team fight is just going to go absolutely pear-shaped. IMT pick up a couple already, and FlyQuest walk away with nothing, but maybe more deaths. Is Pretty going to line up yet another stun? Surely has one ready soon. Tomo going to have to dodge out of there. Pretty looking for it, but not going to grab it just yet. A good slow there from Azir to keep it tidy, but Potluck sacrificed himself. A worthy play to make sure the Elder Dragon got stolen.
He's definitely happy about that one. That trip to the fountain, very much profitable, as the rest of the team still keeps the buff, and will be able to fight consistently as the Baron's going to be coming up in less than a minute. Definitely not the fight that FlyQuest Academy wants to take, even with 5 members. They just cannot fight Keith and Pretty when they both have the Elder buff. It's going to be a really, really difficult thing to take care of anyone on this squad at this point, honestly. Joey, he's looking pretty tanky right now, only has the 1 completed item, but he is level 13 at this point, and for a support at 36 minutes, you're happy about that. Graves, even though he seems like he would be a little squishier with this build, is still enormously tanky versus a lot of the damage that FlyQuest Academy can put out, and honestly, I just don't see any soft targets for FlyQuest Academy to go for.
I mean, yeah, they have Mount Soul. Everyone's got a shield, right? Like, there's just not that many picks you can try and take. I mean, they did get that one thanks to James' setup with that ward, but even that wasn't enough. FlyQuest just, I don't even know what ults they had around that dragon fight to try and turn it around, but I guess it's going to be in the parts at this point because IMT with the Elder Dragon are going to use that to consolidate this Baron. No way FlyQuest can walk in here. They have no vision. They can't win a team fight with Elder Dragon, so they are going to have to give IMT the buff, and FlyQuest just feels so tricky now to navigate through this game. IMT continue to get a gold lead, but they're not even recalling really. In fact, Topoon with the insta TP from like the tier 2 in mid lane to make sure this siege happens as quickly as possible. IMT looking to end the game on this push.
They very well could. The Elder buff is going to be up for another minute, I believe, and the Baron buff is going to be there for quite a bit longer, so they're going to get this inhibitor at the very least. If they push for the end, they have to be so careful about Kumo. He is going to be the playmaker in this squad, but can he find the targets? It's going to be tough.
Yeah, also, like, has a very small window in which to do things. Oh, what a double stun there for Joey. Keith gonna ride in. Topoon's gonna go on top, ride the lightning in, and that's the shutdown over onto Tomo. That's just gonna be curtains, I think, for FlyQuest. They will fight back. A massive taunt for Dreams is gonna try and make it happen, but that's gonna be the ace, and that's gonna be the game as Immortals will take down FlyQuest Academy in style.
And man, oh man, Immortals Academy, they didn't come in as the favorite, but they weren't too undervalued in this matchup. You see FlyQuest Academy, they have their win condition. They play the early game extremely well, especially in the first 5 minutes, but after that, you felt that they were losing steam. Immortals Academy, they picked up on that. They were able to slow push around the map, get the objectives they needed, pick up the Dragon Soul, pick up that excellent gank by Topoon to really turn the game on its head, and then continue just pressuring slowly, methodically. This is the team we've wanted to see all season, and I'm glad we got to see it today.
Yeah, I feel like we had, some questions for, the Immortals draft where, like, we're not really sure how the cannon fits in. Doesn't seem like it's something that, like, super counters the Gnar, so it doesn't seem like necessarily you're picking it for lane. You're probably picking it for comp. We're worried about the 5v5 potential, and IMT just didn't worry about any of that. They clearly understand this comp. Very comfortable playing with all these pick champions. Very comfortable kiting around all the different teamfight cooldowns. And just felt like they had, with kind of one exception, great control around these objectives and just did not lose their cool. It's really impressive when, like, Gnar, Hecarim, Galio can jump in at any time on top of these people. You've got Azir that can make the plays as well. Like, IMT just being like, yep, we're happy with our comp. We're going to take intelligent 5v5s and win the fights kind of as they go longer rather than just losing to the initial combo. And IMT from, I would say, like, the 3rd dragon, if not earlier, didn't really look like they were letting control of that game. And FlyQuest did fight them, but IMT just never let FlyQuest in.
It was really just the timing that they had around the entire team, because you could see FlyQuest Academy had this game plan. They were going to go in with Gnar, they were going to follow it up with NXI and Dreams, but unfortunately, if Gnar runs out of bar, if Kumo is just a little too early on the draw, then this entire team fight falls apart. And even when you saw Immortals Academy lose that stretched out team fight around the Elder Dragon, there was still so much that they could do from their position because they had everything they needed to disengage. They had the Leona, they had the pretty stuns, they had everything that they needed in order to win those fights and drag them out to the point where they could steal the dragon, they could win every fight afterwards, and just take control of the game from pretty much minute 15 on.
All right, well, I have good news for fans of League of Legends. Because Immortals won, there are significantly more tiebreaker scenarios now.
Yep.
So IMT can force potentially a lot of tiebreakers, I believe, at the end of the day after these first 5 regular season games have elapsed. So if you wanted extra League of Legends today from your academy, that is on the table, which is going to be potentially fun. But we're ready for a break. We'll have an interview coming up after this, so don't go too far away. But for now, we'll see you after this. Welcome back here for the post-game interview presented by Verizon. I'm Patriot Time. Joining me still is Kate in the Rage, and we just watched IMT take on FlyQuest Academy and beat them. The man on the line here is Pretty, the mid laner of Immortals Academy, over from EU Masters. Pretty, how you doing, man? It's great to have you on.
I'm great. Nice to see you guys.
So how do you feel about your matchup today? I mean, it's pretty like standard control mage matchup here, but you hadn't had a chance to play triple yet. And he first picked Azir, which is something he's very comfortable on. You could just instantly pick that Syndra and be like, yeah, this is no problem.
Yeah, we were expecting the Azir first pick. He's very good now with the buffs he received, and also a Verdun barrier meta where every laning phase is just fine for him. So I had some picks prepared. Syndra was one of them. I felt really confident in it, so I just picked it. It was a bit of a boring matchup, not much happening, just playing for team fights. This is the meta right now, but it turned out well for us.
And I wanted to ask, like, you talk about the Syndra versus Azir matchup. Was there any, like, big threat that you were looking for throughout the game? Because I noticed you were using your stuns primarily onto the engages coming in from topside more than anything else. Was there something in particular that you knew you needed to do throughout the game?
Well, Syndra, like, in teamfights, the most important thing is how you use your stun. And most of the times what you try to do is like ult the frontline guy and then get a big stun off on the other guys. This is, I guess, the biggest threat of Syndra in teamfights. But I was focusing more on their engagers because I knew if they wouldn't be able to get on us, we had the Graves and the Kai'Sa, we would just win the teamfights. I think I did very well on that. They had really hard time passing our frontline and our Leona and my stance. And then Kennen was just like around looking for the flank wherever they misstepped a little bit. So I feel like we played the team fights really well, and I did my part in a very good, well, I did very good on my part, I guess, yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
100% agree. The one area, though, that didn't go all that well for you was very early into the game. Did you expect Hecarim to visit your lane at 3 minutes and gank you?
I did not expect that. Well, it was kind of me hinting by not putting my free word and having an idea where he would come from. The bad thing was that he solo started, so we wouldn't know where he would come from, top side or bot side. But it was definitely me hinting it and not using my word. But after that, that gank didn't matter a lot because my Graves kept farming, you know, jungle meta right now. So Hecarim shouldn't have killed me there. He should have went to his camps and get some more farm.
For sure. But I gotta ask, looking forward, you played an amazing game today. Going forward to the postseason, what would you say is the pick that we gotta look out for? What is the #1 pretty pick that is going to shock the world?
Well, I'm not gonna tell you guys because enemy teams will ban it. It's gonna be a surprise. You'll know when you see it.
All right,
I'm
well,
ready
when
for
you
it.
see I'm very ready for it. Pretty, thank you so much for chatting to us. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
All right, well, with that, it is time for a break. But when we return, our second game is coming up. Don't forget, there are 5 games and possibly more today for LCS Academy. It's going to be Dignitas Academy taking on TSM Academy. Don't go too far.